Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is September the 6th, 2023. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Let's see here. I had a bit of a training day episode of at work today, which was, it's always an interesting thing. Essentially, I was working, mind my own business, and supervisor comes by with a new recruit, if you will. Didn't recognize him, so I'm like, okay, it's got to be a new guy. They're coming my way. It's got to be me training. Now, let me say this. I personally, and I know like this is just like me coming off as like some like bad buddy cop actor, but I don't like, I work alone, okay? Like I prefer to work by myself. I do not want any extra hands if I can help it. I just prefer to not. You know what I mean? It cramps my style, if you will. But that being said, I'm down if I got to teach someone, especially in this situation, because they're going to be working opposite of me, different shift, different times. So it's like, okay, this is a super easy job. I just got to tell you what buttons to push. That's about it. I'm not going to like become Mr. Miyagi of cardboard here. So, given the rundown, they're cool for the most part. I will say they do the thing that I sometimes don't like, but I completely understand, is they become like a small talk Andy, and they like want to talk about like, oh, well, like, how long have you been working here? You have any kids? You got a girlfriend, a wife, all that kind of shit. And of course, it's like my answer is like no, zero, blah, like no, 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 none of that, none for me, thanks. But I kind of warmed up a little bit as the day went along. So overall, it went well. It seems like they got an okay future at my job. So hopefully, I'm sure they had a good day themselves and all that kind of shit. But yeah, overall, good day. It was fine, no problems. I will say I'm still on like hobble mode. My feet just never want to cooperate. But overall, we're good. I think I just need to like maybe take it a little easy for the night. Maybe chill. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, we're good. Things are good. Things are good in the neighborhood. Speaking of some good, let's talk about that good news. Let me take my little break, and then we'll get into that good news. That good, if you will. All right. Ooh wee. Okay. From the Associated Press. Proud Boys Enrique Tarrio gets record 22 years in prison for January 6th seditious conspiracy. So, ooh wee. Looks like they got him, boys. Former Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio was sentenced Tuesday to 22 years in prison for orchestrating a failed plot to keep Donald Trump in power after the Republican lost the 2020 election, capping the case with the stiffest punishment that has been handed down yet for the U.S. Capitol attack. Tarrio, 39 years old, pleaded for leniency before the judge imposed the prison term, topping the 18-year sentences given to Oath Keepers founder Stuart Rhodes. Mr. Starwolf, the eye patch guy. Talked about him before. And one-time Proud Boys leader Ethan Norden, or Nordine, who fucking cares? A fucking loser. For seditious conspiracy and other convictions stemming from the January 6, 2021 riot. Now, last week, they ran through the sentencing of, like, I think the three other guys. I just didn't want to cover that because at the end of the day, they matter in the scheme of things. Like, they are part of this group, this organization that did the shit that they did. But to me, they just don't matter. They are, like nothing burger sliders. You know what I mean? I don't give a shit about these dudes. I will say one little funny little thing. I don't remember his name, but essentially he said in his defense, like on trial, was that, oh no, like I just needed to go into the restroom. I need to find a restroom to take a piss, like use whatever. That's why they were in the Capitol building that day, not to sniff, AOC shoes or whatever the fuck. So yeah, I mean, this is a neo-fascist group, the Proud Boys. They, kind of rose to prominence, just being the worst kind of people. I felt like it started off like as like troll behavior, but they really felt like they were doing something against Antifa or something like that. And essentially they were the fascists against the anti-fascists. Even though they wouldn't call themselves fascists, I'm sure they were just like Hawaiian-clad do-gooders, according to themselves. I don't fucking know. But no, these assholes took it to the maximum on January 6th. They climbed the walls. They got into the fucking building. They did their shit, and thought they were just gonna be fine. They thought that they were gonna be justified by Donald Trump, but they weren't. And these guys have been, from the QAnon shaman all the way up to him. They've kind of all gotten got. I haven't covered the QAnon shaman guy, but he tried to actually after he pled out, had his whole fucking affair, I guess he decided to like find some balls or something. And he's like, actually, no, I take it back. I meant it. I meant to protest this, and I did nothing wrong. And he like tried to like go to court and like repeal his plea. And the judge like was like, bro, I would love to like just throw you in jail, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm not wasting this fucking time. Just get the fuck out of here. I mean, these goons are just out here, and I'm not mad they're getting rounded up. And Tarrio was like, please don't take away my whole 40s, please. And the judge is like, look, dude, like, this is a Trump appointed judge, by the way. He's like, I can't abide by this. I can't like let this happen again. So like, I need to make an example here. And honestly, speaking of making an example, he could have maxed him out. Like, I believe he could have got like 30 years or so. He only got like 22. So, look, dude, just be on your best behavior and you'll be fine. Is there anything else I really wanted to add here? I think I did have a highlighted portion. He is the final Proud Boys leader convicted of seditious conspiracy to receive his punishment. 3 fellow Proud Boys found guilty by a Washington jury of the rarely used sedition charge were sentenced to prison terms ranging from 15 to 18 years. That is where we're at with it. I'm sure there's some appeals in process, yada, yada, yada. Hopefully they don't go anywhere. But, we got other news to cover, so, let them rot. That's what I say. Okay, from the Associated Press. 61 indicted in Georgia on racketeering charges connected to Stop Cop City movement. 61 people have been indicted in Georgia on racketeering charges following a long-running state investigation into protests against a planned police and firefighter training facility in the Atlanta area that critics call Cop City. Let's see here. We've talked about Cop City a decent amount. The last time we left it, they were prosecuting like the bail people and like people who were helping out with bail. I'm trying to think if I can find it here in the article. But let's see. There was also a shooting of a protester, Tortiga. I know I'm getting their name wrong, but in that situation, cops went into this area that essentially now this is like this forested area, and they want to level it, or at least level a good chunk of it. Put this big old, bigger than a football field ass fucking cop facility that they can like run cool little fucking like Counter-Strike drills and shit and like make super cops out of here. Essentially people are like, look, we don't abide by this. We are not okay with this. Like, we were here at every step of the way protesting this shit, and now we're here at the final end of it, even though you guys have approved it, and we aren't okay with it. We are here. We are not leaving. We're not fucking leaving. And essentially it has kind of all arced into this thing. Like I said, a whole person has died. An inset event, the cops went in with like no fucking cameras. They say, hey, this person shot at us first. We shot back. We killed them. It is what it is. Of course, along the way, protests have kind of arced up in the sense of, there's been a cop car that's been lit on fire. I know, and some of the details that have, been, mentioned and stuff like that, where people have kind of taken the protest to, like, once again, a physical level of, violence, where it's like, oh, well, we come in with the construction material and like all this shit ready to go, and they're there in the trees throwing rocks and all this kind of shit at us. And, they've essentially leveled this up into domestic terrorism. And now, like I said, even the people who are looking to do bail, they're like, look, you guys were passing out flyers saying that like they're murdering people, cops are murdering people, and essentially we're gonna use RICO here to say that you're a money laundering front, and so that's why you're implicated, that's why you're involved, that's why we're arresting you. That's crazy. That's fucking insane to me. And I'm sure there might be some listeners who, stumble upon this or whatever. They're like, well, Isaiah, aren't you creating a double standard here? Like, you're saying that the people on the January 6th, they aren't, protesting. Like, they're terrorists, but these people aren't. You can call me a hypocrite if you want. That's fine. I'm guilty of that shit. I'll wear the shackles on that shit if that's what it takes. But for me, yes, I do truly look at this as a completely different situation. I do. But I do understand how the legal process is going to play out here. And it is just a reminder that at the end of the day, cops, because they are a part of the government, are always going to be allowed to exert a level of violence on the population, because that is control, that is order. It's allowed. But if you do anything against that, that is a level of violence that is not allowed. And the way that it gets covered, the way that it is perceived by people is that's the bad violence. And what the cops are doing is good violence. That's just how it kind of gets played out. And I know I'm saying this in layman. I'm not the smartest person. I can't convey these fucking thoughts and things, perfectly or fucking well. But I feel it. And it's also a funny thing too, where like I've kind of said this before, where it's like, man, Georgia uses RICO like Goku uses the Kamehameha wave. Like, it is just their staple move. It is all they have. It's like, how are we going to convict the president of the United States? Like, former president, Donald Trump. How are we going to get this motherfucker? And it's like, we do what we do best, baby. We do the best goddamn RICO case we've ever done before. And that's their play. That is what they're doing. For better or worse, that is their move. How do we get famous rapper Young Thug? We fucking lump him in with the fucking YSL Slime Gang, and we just say it's a RICO case. And sure enough here, with these people who are, this is at its core a protest, it has now been arced up into like a nationwide domestic terrorism plot to overthrow Atlanta or Georgia, whatever. I don't know, man. That is what prosecutors are saying. I personally do feel like it's bullshit. I do. I fucking do. But, like I said earlier, you see the land now. It is concrete. This is how the trial is going to unfold. I get it. Like, I don't think this is going to have a good outcome, in my opinion. But, I'll be there to cover it. That's for sure. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about some lighter things. Even though this is lighter shit, it does irk me. This is one of those situations where like I'm like Ken Watanabe and I'm just like, let them fight. But let's get into it. Let's talk about what's going on here. From The Guardian. New York City's crackdown on Airbnb and short-term rentals goes into effect. All right, don't fall asleep. I know this is boring shit, but I don't know. Maybe you care about Airbnb. Maybe you've used one. I personally have never used an Airbnb, but I don't know. I guess I have beef, but we'll get into it. New New York City rules on Airbnbs and short-term rentals went into effect on Tuesday, with tens of thousands of illegal short-term listings expected to be affected. The new legislation bulks up enforcement of existing rules on how short-term rentals are allowed to operate. Passed in January, the measure known as Local Law 18 mandates that short-term rental hosts register with the city government. Registration creates a clear path for hosts who follow the city's long-standing laws and protects travelers from illegal and unsafe accommodations, while ending the proliferation of illegal short-term rentals. That was Christian Klossner of the New York City Mayor's Office of Special Enforcement. So yeah, this is literally a crackdown on more or less Airbnbs. They're like one of the bigger ones, bigger groups affected. There's also Verbo, but essentially, like with these tighter regulations, eligible hosts must prove that they live in the dwelling that they are renting out, and that the home is up to municipal safety codes and other regulatory requirements. Hosts in violation of the new legislation could face fines from $1,000 to $5,000. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, especially if you've never used Airbnb, like, what the fuck are you talking about? This sounds like resident sleeper news. It kind of is. But at the end of the day, essentially, Airbnb is like, hey, let's say you want to go to a hotel, but you really don't want to go to a hotel. You're just traveling. You need a place to stay. Airbnb is supposed to be like an option that like is a local experience that you go to someone's house or apartment and you just stay there. And you don't have to deal with the fuss and hassle of a hotel. You get like a decent little place to be at, and you're good to go. You're in the city. You're at where you need to be at, and you're having a good time. People have taken this now to like becoming like micro landlords. That's how I like to describe this. Essentially, there are people. I just listened to a story from the Journal where a guy was like, "Hey, I was like struggling to make rent. Like, I'm trying to just make a living in New York, right? So what I did was I split some rent, moved out, but kept my apartment, and split the rent with some other people. I'm fueled by ramen type shit, but I rent out my apartment to Airbnb, and essentially people come, they use my spot, I maintain it, yada yada yada, and I'm getting a substantial like income boost, and now I can make ends meet. And so a lot of people were like, said like college style dude. And, they're like, oh yeah, I go on travel, I do a thing, whatever, and I rent out my spot to people. Hell, I mean, technically we talked about this with Lil Baby. He rented out a place, kind of like probably a Airbnb style situation, did his little music video, had his fucking homies and cronies just chilling there, and ruined some old man's life and punched him in the face. You know what I mean? Now, that's just one Airbnb experience. Essentially, though, New York is saying that, look, by doing this, you're creating a bubble in the housing market that's making it more expensive and just harder and just a harsher environment for people. And hotels chirp up and they're like, yo, like, you're taking our bucking business. You've always been doing that since this is a thing. And like, this is cheating. This isn't fair. This isn't right. And they kind of use this and they're kind of exploiting it and saying, hey, like, yeah, get them. Fucking clamp down on this shit. Yeah, you should be using hotels. So here I am looking at this and I'm like, well, who am I supposed to root for? These micro fucking landlords or like big hotel? Like, I don't know here. And New York's not the only one doing this. There's other cities like Philadelphia or states, Philadelphia, what is there? California, whatever. There's a lot of cities, states that are sitting here saying like, look, this Airbnb shit is not Gucci. It's not working. But was something that I found interesting. I kind of assumed that landlords wouldn't like this, but just listening to some people, they're like, no, I actually approve this. Like after I said, hey, I tried this with my place. It's working so well. I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to run this. I'm going to become a micro slumlord. And they just said, hey, yeah, I kind of made like these, like, I turned these apartments into like kind of mid-grade-ish hotels, if you will, very minimalistic, contemporary situations. And people loved it. And not only the customers, but the landlords were fine with it. And I was like, wow, really? But people have described like tenants. They're like, look, this is ruining my living experience. Like now I have to like deal with these random like tourists and shit, and they're loud and annoying and they act like they don't live here because they don't live here. And yeah, I don't like it. But meanwhile, Airbnb is like piping up and they're saying like, look, tourists are going to get hurt by this. Not to mention there's a whole, economic ecosystem here that is going to be drastically affected by these regulations. So they are trying to fight it. So, I mean, yeah, that's where we are now. Like I said, Tuesday, the shit, I believe, went into effect. And I don't know who to root for. We'll just kind of see where things, fall out. I don't know if I'm going to give any more coverage here or whatever, but it was something that came up in the news, and I was like, you know what? I'm I'm totally down to talk about micro fucking landlords. Let's get into it. And plus, I gotta say, I guess my piece, I personally don't like Airbnb as an idea. I get it. Like on its base, on paper, it's cool, but I've heard nasty stories. Just like how people have to like make rules and like I don't know. It just seems like not my vibe. I actually like a good hotel, even a shitty hotel. So I don't know, man. Maybe I'm siding with Big Hotel here on the low, but fuck them too. I don't know. I don't like any of this shit. Let's move along though. We got one more story to cover, and then I can be done rambling in your ear holes. All right, let me take my little last break. Ooh. Okay. Our last story comes from CBS News. Great Wall of China damaged by workers allegedly looking for shortcut for their excavator. Okay, so we're going to China. Excuse me. Two people have been arrested in northern China after allegedly damaging a section of China's iconic Great Wall by using an excavator to cut a huge gap in the ancient structure, local police said in a statement posted online. The suspects are a 38-year-old man and a 55-year-old woman. They are construction workers who are allegedly trying to create a shortcut to save time going around the wall, the police said, describing the structure as severely damaged. Now, something I definitely want to add that I kind of learned as I was like hearing the story over again is that this hole technically existed before they started excavating. Like, I mean, the Great Wall of China, it's been around for a while. Like, let's just say it's been around for a little bit. More than 2,000 years. Some of the older portions of this wall were created. Granted, I mean, this is a wall so big you can see it from fucking space. It's huge. It's awesome. I think, honestly, as a kid, I remember, like, that was one of the monuments that I was like, man, I actually kind of would want to go see that. That'd be pretty wild. That'd be pretty cool. But now I'm like, nah, I'm cool. I get it. I've seen it from the internet. That's fine. But it's interesting here because like when I initially see some of the angles, you can kind of see that these construction workers did a really good job because it almost looks like a road was made here. But something I wanted to preface, I kind of bearing it here, is that oh, there's the burp. Oh, whew, raw. I'm sorry. Okay. That there was a hole that was kind of already generated because, this wall's so old, damage from weather, time, what have you, people literally taking off bricks to like add to their own buildings, has made a hole that was big enough for a human being to kind of walk through, traverse through. So that was already a thing. And so these construction workers saw this hole and they're like, I mean, yeah, this is big enough for us to get through. But it would be so tight. It would be hella tight if we just used our excavator and just finished the job and made it so an excavator could get through. Wouldn't that be crazy if we just like let nature take its course? Like, huh? And that's what they did. That's what they decided to do. And China police were like, okay, fuck you. And they arrested them. So yeah, they have been arrested. They've been detained pending further investigation. So yeah, I mean, I think that's crazy that you kind of have that thought of like, I mean, the hole's already there, and you just do that. Like, it just seems like something out of like a fucking Ed and Nettie episode. I don't know. It seems crazy. It seems wild, but they did it, and that happened. They do say that it is irreparable damage. They won't be able to replace this, fix this. Tell me why my dumbass though was thinking. I'm like, maybe you take this opportunity to kind of like fix the hole. Like I don't know, maybe the Great Wall could just use use a patch upgrade, a little update. But I kind of felt dumb. I don't know. Maybe that's stupid. Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know. You chirp out. Speak to that. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I got to shill first. I'm sorry. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. If you'd like to support financially and become a newsie, I will salute you. I will dub you with a rolled newspaper. No, I won't do that. But I will shout out your name on the podcast and plug a project you're doing. That's a thing. Free ways to hit me up, isaiahnews1@gmail.com. If you'd like to send some feedback that way. Also, social media-wise, I'm out there. The podcast is out there. You can find me or us. That's available. That's a thing. That's a mode. Yeah, that's a thing. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.